Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Office Podcast. I am your host, Hassan. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in to the last episode. Your support is always appreciated. This is a bit of a niche thing that I'm doing. Not a lot of people do podcasts or videos on their favorite show in such length, so I really appreciate all of the support that I'm receiving. I think the last video got a fair amount of views, so thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Hopefully these podcasts will be out on other platforms as well. At the moment, it's just YouTube. But you will eventually be listening to these on other platforms. So you're probably already listening to it now. But in real time, it's still just out on YouTube. So thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. I had a little think about what I wanted to do for this episode. Did I want to revisit another character, or did I want to talk about a few episodes? And I think for me, episodes are a little bit more exciting to dissect and talk about. I think character I'll probably do next time, maybe Creed or Kelly or someone. But today I'm going to be dissecting a couple more episodes. Some of my favorites, I think, probably like the top 10 maybe. And these aren't like all-time favorites. These are just like 10 that I like from, the catalogue of episodes they've got. And the first one that comes to mind, one of the really, really good ones was Office Bus. So if you remember that, it's where I think there's Dwight cheaps out on the electrics in the office. Obviously, he's the new building owner now, season 8, and he's cheap. He's gonna try and cut costs everywhere that he can. When he opened up his little caffeine corner or whatever it was, he was charging like $5-6 for a muffin or whatever it was. So yeah, this was the episode where Jim convinced everyone in the office that Dwight was doing something crazy with the electrics. That it wasn't safe to work in the office, so he made Dwight hire an office bus. And it was just meant to be parked up outside, and instead they go on this crazy road trip to go get pies at this famous pie place that everyone loves. And somehow Kevin becomes a crazy mathematician and figures out the mileage and whatever else. So the reason why I like this episode, again, a lot of the episodes where the characters are outside of the office are the ones where they really shine. I think being in the office, it kind of, they're kind of doing the same old thing, the same old routine, but when they're out of their element, that's what really brings the characters to life. So like Kevin, for example, that's the funniest he has been in an episode. Obviously, there's other ones where he's, his one-liners are absolutely crazy. But I think this episode really, really, really sunk in for me that he's a top-tier character. And just overall, the antics that Jim was getting into with Dwight and, making him look silly. And then, Dwight at this point in time was going through a really weird phase with Angela, and he didn't feel like he was superior and all these other things. So, and, again, it was where Jim and Pam were going through their little thing, and Jim wanted to get her the pie she wanted and all that other stuff. So for me, this definitely was a top tier episode. Moving on to another top tier episode is the one where, for the love of God, I don't know why, but I think her name's Carol. Michael's first girlfriend in the show. I don't know why I can't remember her name. I believe it's Carol. Is it Carol? I think so. It's the one where she breaks up with him, where he is singing "I've Got 2 Tickets to Paradise" when he's talking about Sandals, Jamaica. That intro to the show was hilarious. One of the best. His lyrics were absolutely amazing. But no, the reason why I like that episode is because there's a lot going on in that episode. They go to, I think they go to Benihana for lunch. Jim, Dwight, Andy, and Michael, and they get into it with the couple that are sat at the tables, and then you've got Angela, kind of causing problems for Karen and Pam in the office. They've got their own Christmas parties going on. Karen wants to be different. She wants to fit in, so she's teaming up with Pam to do whatever she needs to do to do that. And again, Kevin just is the star of the show in that episode where, he's eating brownies and he wants more, and, Angela's just making jokes about his weight and whatever else. And again, the reason why I like this episode is genuinely because it introduces a couple new characters. So the waitresses from Benihana come to the office. Michael has to mark one of them with a pen to keep track of which one he has, he's brought back from the... It was just a mess of a show, a mess of an episode, sorry. But it was funny because again, it was Michael getting up to his usual antics. It was him listening to the same song over and over again as well, which was hilarious. I don't know why. He just said something along the lines of this being the important part of the song. So that, I don't know why. I really laughed at that little scene. But again, it's these little nuances in the show that makes it a really good show. You know, they could have made a whole episode where they dragged it out, where they made it a lot more serious about Carol and Michael, but they didn't. They made it funny, and you know, that's one of my favorite episodes. Just going down the list, another one of my favorite episodes is Business School, where Ryan brings in Michael as a guest speaker to his university business school or whatever it is. And here, for me, it's the arrogance of Michael which really makes me laugh. He thinks he's this amazing business guy, and then he talks about all the different types of businesses and realizes he hasn't actually listed off as many as he thought he should have, because there's more than what he said. Then he rips the page out of that guy's book, and you know, I get the sentiment. I know why he did it. Obviously, other people do it to inspire and everything else, but he did it, and he looked like a complete fool. And you know, where he's just throwing chocolate bars into the air, and you know, using those sort of references and stuff, which made it a really good episode. And I think for me, you know, top tier character Michael. It has to be Michael. You know, even though the show kind of survived without him when he was gone, while he was there, he was a very, very big part. And you know, I say that Dwight and Jim and a couple of the others are the main characters, because obviously Michael had gone and the show continued. But for me, Steve Carell, Michael, brilliant actor and character in that show. The next episode that springs to mind is Threat Level Midnight. This was Michael's attempt at a spy thriller movie. And for those of you that don't know, I hope you do know, they've released a full length of Threat Level Midnight on YouTube. It's somewhere, I believe it's on the Office YouTube page. But yeah, they released a full length version of the movie. I watched it. I'm not gonna lie, I liked the mystery of just watching bits of it in the episode rather than watching the whole thing. I don't know, I just didn't resonate with the whole thing. But watching the clips, the highlights, was one of the best episodes. And again, it's just, you know, Michael trying to be this, you know, actor, trying to use all these references like Catherine Zeta-Jones as his wife, and you know, it's just, I think that is just top tier Michael. That's Michael being Michael, him being funny. And again, I think the episode really brought together different characters within the actual fake movie as well. And I think because why it was funny was because they found a script, I think in season 1, where Michael tried to pretend where he was a screenwriter, and then he brought the movie to life, and it had all the other characters in it. Karen had gone by now, Jan had gone by now as well, and to see them back was really cool. To have them involved was really good. Todd Packer was in it as well. Yeah, it was a top tier episode for me, definitely. One other episode that springs to mind is Niagara Falls, so Jim and Pam's wedding. Again, you know, Kevin coming out with tissue boxes of shoes was crazy, and the fact that, you know, someone wrote that into a script or someone wrote that into a scene was absolutely outrageous. And the fact that he was happy with a free breakfast because they had to, you know, destroy his shoes, the only shoes he had for the wedding. But it's not just that. I think overall, like I said, it's the jokes at the drinks before the night before the wedding, when Michael tries to do his stand-up comedy. Jim reveals that Pam is pregnant to everyone, and Nana, whatever her name is, Nana Beasley, that's not her name, but you know who I'm on about. When she finds out and she wants to go home, and you know, Michael ends up sleeping in I don't know, the fire escape or something. So yeah, for me it was a very good. I think it's over 2 episodes, but it was very good. I think my favorite bit was where Kevin comes out with a wig. Like, that's the first part of the episode 1 where he talks about how he's gonna have a wig for this wedding, which was absolutely crazy. And the wig, I think the wig suits him actually. I'm not gonna lie, it's a very good feature for Kevin for sure. One of the other episodes, kind of later on in the season, earlier on in this season, was The Criminal with Martin Nash, where Michael finds out that he's a reformed criminal. And everyone thinks it's really cool. He talks about prison and how, you know, work, that prison is better than where they work. I think Michael and Pam made that comment. And then Michael introduces everyone to Prison Mike. And Prison Mike has to be the best side character that Michael has ever played. Prison Mike is the best. The fact that he mentions Dementors in in the scene, and Jim refers to Harry Potter, I lost my mind. It was one of the best scenes in all of television, where Michael comes out and calls Meredith what he calls her, and is wearing this purple bandana and tries to act like a bad guy, like a criminal, and it really just doesn't work. And again, I think it's these little moments, these little scenes, which really makes the show for a lot of people. I've been reading forums online as well, and I think this was people's top episode. So much happens in it, but Prison Mike for me was the highlight of this episode. The Deposition, another very good episode, where Jan has to defend herself in front of a group of lawyers. Michael's there as a witness, and the bit of this whole episode that really I love is where I think it's the judge or whoever it is, the lawyer, refers to establishing whether they wanted to figure out whether Jan and Michael were in a relationship, not him and Ryan. And Toby loses his mind, and I remember watching it for the very first time, and I laughed at the same time Toby did. It was one of the funniest scenes in the whole episode. And the second funniest scene of that episode is when Michael pushes Toby's tray off of the table when he's trying to, console him and say he can talk about whatever he wants to talk about and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a very good episode. I think it showed Michael's true colors. He really loves the company he works for. He could have gone against them and said it was, that Jan was mistreated and everything else, but he didn't. He stuck to his guns, and he kind of stuck up for the company, which was nice to see. We're down to my last three now. Before I do that, if you're not subscribed to the channel, I'd really appreciate your subscription. This channel has been one of the best projects I've worked on. This podcast is one of the best podcasts I have been able to listen to myself, and not to sound narcissistic or egocentric or whatever, but it's like anything Office I love. So I'll listen back to my episodes and I'll remember things that I forgot that I mentioned. So I think hopefully this podcast will be like a hub for people to come back to and just think about the show that they love. Because again, this is a very niche show. This is not like the Game of Thrones of the world or anything like that. This is a show that came out like 13 years ago, and people still love to this day. So the best thing that you can do for me is to hit that subscribe button for me, or follow, or share, or whatever platform you're consuming this content on. It would really mean the world to me. So the last three: Fun Run, when Michael downs a whole, I don't know what it was, a box of fettuccine Alfredo, when he wants to carbo load for the run that he's about to go on, when in actual fact you should be carbo loading the night before a run, not the morning of. And this for me was a very good episode because there was so much going on. It was Michael being Michael after running over Meredith. He wanted to raise money for rabies awareness or whatever it was. And I think, again, because they're outside of the office, I think the characters do shine. When they're not in the office, they're not stuck in that same environment, they can really shine. And I think this is when Pam and Jim's relationship was quite new. So again, they were kind of like just not doing anything together in terms of just taking the mick out of the situation where Michael is running, trying to create rabies awareness and raise money. They're literally going to like some garage sale to buy a lamp or whatever it was. And then you had Stanley, Oscar, and I think it was Daryl that went to a bar. I don't know why Kevin didn't join them. He was literally running. I thought Kevin would be the first one in that taxi to go to the bar, but he wasn't. So props to Kevin. The last two, these are important ones. And again, this list of 10 is not like my top favorite ones. It's like 10 that I like. But number one is my top episode of all time, and I'm getting to that shortly. So number 2 is Beach Games. Beach Games, for me, the funniest scene of that whole episode was when Dwight is literally on his hands and knees with his face in the fire, trying to get the job of manager, because obviously Michael has convinced everyone the games are for a purpose, a reason, and then everyone finds out it's actually to be manager of the branch because he's going to be leaving for a job that is not guaranteed. So again, classic Michael. But I think the reason why I like this episode was it was different because we saw the characters' development. We saw a lot more of Stanley kind of being a bit more social. We saw Phyllis being social. Creed was just being a weirdo like normal. Toby had to stay in the office, so he wasn't even involved, which was hilarious. And it was a good kind of segue into the next season. I think the finale episode was after, where Jim and Karen broke up. So it was kind of like a nice segue into that storyline as well. But no, that was definitely a favorite episode of mine. And last but not least, it has to be Dinner Party. Dinner Party for me is the best Office episode ever. It's not the reunion. It's not the finale. It's not the whatever. It's not Michael coming back at the end, which is the reunion. It's literally Dinner Party, where Michael invites Jim, Pam, Andy, Angela to dinner with him and Jan. Obviously, Dwight and his babysitter arrive randomly afterwards when they're not invited. But this episode, from start to finish, is the most outrageous and funniest episode in the world. It's so let me begin. So we won't start in the office where Michael tricks Jim into doing dinner with them. I'll start at the house where literally they're doing the tour of the house. It's the most awkward thing where Jan is just talking about eggshell white and how it's not different, and Michael just losing his mind over that fact. The second thing is where Michael is shown curling up on his bed, the thing at the end of the bed, and it's hilarious. The way he curls up on that thing, it's like you can imagine him sleeping there and Jan just taking over the whole bed. And that was one of the funniest bits of that scene. The next bit is where Jan is dancing to Hunter's song, which is very, very strange. And we all know it's about Jan. I don't care what you say. That song is about Jan. And then you have the candle business that Jan has invested in, and obviously it's Michael's money. She hasn't got a job, so this was all of Michael's money. And the reason why this episode is the best for me, it's none of those things that I've just listed. It's because when Michael is showing them the flat screen TV on that bracket and he moves it about a centimeter, I lose my mind every time I watch that. Even thinking about it now, it makes me laugh, because that little nuance, that little thing is why The Office is a great show. They knew that something like that would make people laugh hysterically. And I've seen the outtakes of that episode. That episode was outrageous. I don't think they got through that properly. But that little push that Michael does of that TV onto that wall was outrageous. And again, I still laugh at it, how many other years later, just picturing him doing that. It's the best episode ever for me, in all of television. I'm going to say it, in all of television. Obviously, there are other things in the episode as well, where where Jan smashes a flat screen TV, where he gets the neon sign at dinner and all these other things. But I could talk about my favorite episodes for hours, for days, if I had to. But no, Dinner Party is definitely one of my best episodes, because it's such an outrageous episode. It's got everything in it. It's like the end of Michael and Jan. And the fact that Dwight's in the mix, I think it would have been a very different episode if Dwight wasn't there. His little comments, and he had to be there to console Michael. Andy wasn't going to do it, really. Jim definitely wasn't going to do it. So Dwight had to come and console Michael and, take care of him after that little incident. But that is it for this episode. Those have been not my top 10, but like my top 1 episode, and then the 9 that followed were like ones I like. There's loads more. These are the ones that were like kind of top of my head when I was writing the list. But thank you for watching or listening, whatever platform you're consuming this on. I really appreciate the support. If you could drop this a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and share, you'd really be doing me a huge favor. And again, thank you for the continued support. It really means a lot to me. I will catch you on the next episode. Peace and love. Take care.